Well, welcome back, everyone, to the monthly XR News Medical and Health Edition for Educators in VR, where we connect with innovators and explore their personal journeys into XR AI, where we hear what fuels their passions and how their immersive technology to make a real difference in the world of health and wellness. I'm your host, Rachel Darding, a health and well-being educator and coach, and the host of Recharge with Rachel D every Tuesday in VR chat at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Join me here each month as we take a closer look at how extended reality is shaping the future of well-being, healthcare, and human connection, and proudly part of the weekly XR News series. So settle in, please ask questions along the way by just raising your hand, and let's dive into another inspiring conversation here on the XR News. XR News is hosted here every week in Engage XR. The first Wednesdays are with me, XR News Med Health Edition, and the third Wednesdays are the XL New Innovation Spotlight with hosts Maxwell McGee, Chris Madsen, and Tom Furness. The XR News is every second and fourth week with Laurel, Karen, and Steph, bringing you the latest news from across the metaverse, all a must-see. The XR News is produced by Educators in VR and run by volunteers. We are grateful to our partners and supporters who keep us going, including the Reinhardt Foundation, Girls STEAM Institute, iLearn, Virtual World Society, Vertex Form 3D, Cadets Metaverse, and Engage XR, and also Bridgemakers. And if you or your company would like to sponsor the XR News, please contact us at educatorsvr.com. Follow us across all of our social media and our Educators in VR YouTube channel. The links to all our news stories will be covered and also on our Educators in VR Discord. This show will also be in our Educators VR YouTube channel in the XR News playlist shortly. And today's guest is my friend and a trailblazer in the XR industry, Kristin Gelzinis. She's a gaming community advocate and a social impact leader. Today, together, we're going to explore how games can become safe spaces for emotional resilience and how communities can grow stronger together. If you have any questions during our chat, please again, just raise your hand and join the conversation.
And,
Hi, Kristin. How are you doing
I'm
today?
Laurel. Hi, Kristin. Hi, I'm Laurel, and I am a co-host for the XR News, and I'm here to support Rachel because she's having some technical difficulties. So, and I'm so glad to be here with you, Kristin.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey.
So we're here today to talk about your long lifehood through XR, VR, and through the changes that we've made. And you've had a long path through your crisis response and mental health work. What drew you into the gaming world, XR, and how did that shift change the way you see community healing?
Okay. So like you said, I have had a long journey, and like a lot of you, when COVID shut down the world, I was working in, mental health, in the education part of that. A lot of training and a lot of working with children in different businesses, still using my mental health degree. By chance, I went out and bought a headset. Just my son wanted one. He wanted one, and I thought it would be something cool while we were in the house to do together. So I was like, well, let me get one. It was also a way to keep an eye on him and make sure nothing, was going on. Before that, I played games, but I wouldn't have considered myself a gamer. Like now. Man, that has really gone downhill. We're up here, I guess. But when I went in, I started seeing all of these spaces and meeting all of these people. And the one thing that I noticed really quickly that everybody had in common was that desire for community, which was true in real life, even with crisis response, which I still do. It's within communities, it's within emergency service communities. And that's what supports them. That's what holds them together during these really dramatic and traumatic times, is that community, that sense of belonging. And what drew me really, really further into gaming and into that gaming world was it was the same idea. there was these amazing communities forming that still had these moments of connection and, drama, as always.
Yes.
But I connected with, you know, holding classes in there and leading circles and all of this other stuff that just really opened up my world to developing myself really and honing in on those skills that I really, really found that I absolutely loved. I loved creating these spaces where everybody was welcome, everybody felt safe. You could still build upon the community and do it in a way that fostered relationships, fostered connections, fostered learning and education, but also had like a really positive social impact on people. So, yeah, that's my short side of that question.
No, and I think you're so amazing at it. I've been so lucky to work with you and then to be part of so many different projects. And I just love watching your community grow. So at the end of the session, we'll share her connection so that you guys can join some of her communities and grow along with her as well. So, yeah. So you describe games as a safe space for emotional resilience. In your personal experience, what elements with a game online world help players actually build resilience rather than just escape, just that whole
Yeah,
escapism?
it's not an escape if you think about it, really, because I hear that a lot.
Hmm.
When you fail at a game, whether you're world building, whether you're playing Fortnite, whether you're playing, Population One or anything, it's so relevant to everything that is happening in VR. When you fail, you don't give up. You keep going and you find that community that helps build your confidence to keep going or to just learn where your mistakes were. And that in itself is the biggest teacher of resilience, is that when things get hard in life or in gaming, you keep going. And that translates into real life. You see that over and over again. You could quit, and it's a lot easier to just be done and turn it off. But when you
Hmm.
have a community there, you have friendships, you have relationships in there, you don't want to do that because you have this whole entire group and this network of people that are relying on you not to quit, or something that you just kind of want to show off to your friends, just something that you guys could enjoy together. So you're going to do anything to keep that going. And whether that's getting better at a game or, making a new world, whatever it is. It's just,
Yeah.
it helps us problem solve. Sorry.
No,
No,
you're great. You're
so
great.
yeah, and I'm curious about what is it about a game that lends itself to community that is help you can build a community within it, because when I think of a lot of games and that I play, I don't think of them as very community. I just want to get in there, solve the problems. What is it about that makes it different? Community worthy, I guess, is the right word.
Well, think about it. If you fail or you die or whatever it is that whatever you're struggling with in that game, you have these people around you, your community around you that helps you celebrate these wins, these very small wins and very large wins. You're no longer by yourself. You're gaming before you even realize it with a purpose, really, because you're celebrating those small wins. Those small wins really matter. And just like I'll take my son as a really good example of that. He gets very frustrated when he plays a game, but any time that he doesn't rage quit, his friends are like, hey, like, Parker's still with us, like, that's a small win. But to me, that's a huge win because that translates in life in a really big way. People get creative with their problem solving. They start cooperating with their with their difficulties, they lean on the people, the players, the teammates, the squad. You will see it over and over again on TikTok, on YouTube, on any social media channel where these people have been playing for years and years and years. People are getting married from gaming. You form these lasting relationships that, failure is not frowned upon. It's just feedback. It's feedback that a community around you normalizes because we all fail, but we just keep going, and we celebrate the fact that we keep going, and it's safe to keep going, and it's safe to have these conversations about those failures and eventually even laugh about those failures. And that really helps produce resilience, and just that transfers. It's not about escaping reality. It transfers to your reality, because when you have that resilience, that connection, all of that stuff, you're not escaping. You're helping your reality out of game just be a little bit easier, a little bit more, easier to deal with, building skills.
I totally agree. I have a couple of people that I meet up with, or we have a standing meetup in Beat Saber or in Walkabout Golf. And I'm terrible, and these people have been playing for a long time, and we just giggle and laugh along the way and catch up. And, it really brightens my day when I go and I see these particular people, knowing that even if I feel lonely or if I had a bad day, I know I'm going to go to play Beat Saber and we're going to talk and have a great time. And like I said, it's made me such a better player, and I wouldn't have just doing that by myself. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
So let's talk about scaling community without losing connection is tough. What have you
Yeah.
learned about maintaining empathy and safety as an online group grows from 100 to tens of thousands?
Oof. This is, a really difficult question, and like just giving it some thought. Empathy doesn't scale automatically or even easily for that matter.
Right.
When you take on a community, especially a community that the game is maybe a little bit younger, these this younger crowd has to be taught how to have empathy, how to have sympathy, how to not be a jerk online, quite literally.
Really,
And
yeah.
it's hard, and it takes a very long time of these little tiny microsystems built within that community. And within those microsystems, like this trust happens. And one of the communities I'm particularly working with, I came in and it was maybe 3,000. We're almost at 50,000. And part of building that community was creating a trust between me and the player base, then grabbing that player base in, separating them into like team leaders, moderators, and, just event hosts and stuff like that. So I knew they were going to do the right thing, and they were going to help amplify that to their little micro community. And what these players now realize is that that positive social impact that they have, the helpfulness that they show towards players, the kindness, the helping onboard players into that game gets them a lot further than going in and being a troll. Really, like literally being a troll or just being an absolute jerk, and then ruining the experience for other new players, because nothing will kill a game faster than going to an open public lobby and getting really bad words spammed at you. So as you start building these little micro communities in this larger community, you start to rely on these great, very I don't even know the word for it, but these really like eager players, these excited players. And then as you teach them, they just by nature want to go out and flourish on their own, and you let them do that. That's the importance, is you trust that you've taught them enough and you let them do that. And with that comes empathy, comes sympathy, because now they're the trailblazers for their little micro community that eventually goes out and branches and does the same thing. And it's I'd be lying just if I said this is great and it's easy and it's wonderful and there's never any hiccups, because that's just not the truth, even a little bit. There's always hiccups. But when it works and it starts happening and you start to see these very slow changes happening within the game, 100% worth it. Everything. Because that goes back into your reality as well. If you're a troll in the game, there's a good chance you're a troll in real life too, You're
Oh, I
getting,
agree. And scaling a community from 3,000 to 50,000, congratulations. That is amazing hard work. And I'm so glad there's people like you in XR doing that. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Laurel, did you have
absolutely.
anything to add?
I'm just I'm so impressed by all of this. It's just so wonderful. And I'm wondering, what are the warning signs? Let's talk about, because you're dealing with people from all different things. What are the warning signs before a community or a micro community starts to fracture, crack, that you can pay attention to?
So you could see that, and some of the warning signs that we start looking for, like, we don't actively look for it, but I do pay attention to any infighting that might be happening, any alpha territory, lots of banging heads, or just not doing the right thing, and the unreliableness, which also happens. And what tends to happen is we let that fracture, and we let those two, we'll say A and B, are starting some infighting, and they're not really agreeable on what they want to do, and they just can't seem to work it out, and that drama is kind of spilling over into
It
that
starts
other
creating,
line.
and people start taking sides, right?
Yeah, 100%. And nothing kills a community, a smaller community, than that, because nobody wants to be involved, and then if people are involved, there's a no-win, and so you just let that fracture kind of happen, and you appoint a different direction. A goes into a different direction, and B sees a different direction, and you let them fracture, because
Really?
yeah, absolutely, because
Okay.
it's a little different in an actual game, like, because it's going to be so sloppy, and it has been so sloppy, where you'll have 20 to 50 people in that little micro community, and some are taking Laurel's side and some are taking Rachel's side, but there's a huge amount of discomfort that they've come into this game to enjoy, to have fun, to play, to be with the people that they're choosing to be with. And when that's no longer being met as a need, you're going to start losing them anyway. So if we give Rachel room A and Laurel room B and let them thrive separately, at some point that infight will settle down, but now it's no longer the case, and people can choose where they want to go.
That's brilliant, because so many times the little tiny things are what, the little tiny cracks that grow into canyons actually destroy the whole community.
Absolutely.
And so that makes complete sense, because we spend so much energy, those of us that maintain communities, we spend so much energy trying to heal, right?
Yeah, but and then what happens? You come into a game and you're like, ugh. You don't ever want that feeling to come into a space and get that feeling. I don't want to deal with this tonight.
Exactly. Oh, that is great wisdom, Kristin. Thank you. Wow.
So talking about gaming world and how it can mirror the real world, the challenges and the competition, there's burnout, event toxicity. So what are the practical steps that leaders can take to keep these spaces psychologically healthy? And like, what have you learned through this process? Because I mean, 3,000 to 50,000, I mean, congratulations. I can't, my heart beams for you for that. That's huge.
Thank you. But it's also, you're right, it's a lot. So
Yes.
one of the things that I've realized very early on, and before I had even done this with the actual games, is first and foremost is taking care of yourself, self-care, whatever that looks like for you. You should want to go in and do it. The second that you start telling yourself, I don't really want to do this tonight, and we've all been there. You guys all run stuff in VR. You have to step back for a moment and ask yourself why. Is this something that I'm getting an unmet need out of? But you also have to take care of the people that you were kind of in charge of. So that means, in a really, really big way, checking in with your moderators. If they're running weekly or twice a week events or bi-weekly events, making sure that that's not too much for them and you're not asking too much of them. And quite frankly, like, some of my event hosts are very young. So for me, throwing them a game that they really wanted to play on Meta, or giving them meta cash, is a really big incentive for them. But I can't do that with everybody, otherwise I'd be broke. But what
Yeah,
I can do is have a, kind of like a powwow, and make sure, absolutely make sure, that they know that their time, their effort, that everything that they're doing is 100% appreciated, that you trust them fully, because you should. And if you don't trust them, then they shouldn't be running it. But that you trust them to run with what their idea is, and what do they need from me. Whatever they need from me, I'm going to give it freely, but I'm also going to make sure that you don't feel burnt out. Because if you feel burnt out, that doesn't mean you need to go away. Just reconnect. And if that's reconnecting with the game, or reconnecting with your family, or reconnecting and just going in and having fun anonymously, not being
absolutely.
that person. So there's a lot of different steps to make sure that we don't burn out the people that help us ensure that we have a positive, healthy community going. Because without those people, we're no good either.
No, absolutely. Our volunteers that support us through Educators in VR are like the backbone of us. And without their help and without the audience, it would be a totally different space. And again, so much appreciation to all you guys. At this
Yeah.
moment, does anyone have a question they'd want to chime in? Or all right, Parisa, if you want to unmute.
Ready now. There you
Yay,
are.
Parisa! Oh, and
Thank
it's so
you.
beautiful to see you here.
It's good to be here. I'm a little rusty. It's been a while since I've spent a lot of time in VR, and it feels really good to be back. As the seasons are shifting up here in Canada, I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to spend more time indoors. So yeah, really happy to be here. My question is, so admittedly, I didn't grow up as a gamer, and as I was listening to you speak, I was, trying to connect with that experience through some of the communities that I feel like I've been a part of. And they could be, for example, like podcasts and being a part of the fans, or like TV shows and you're kind of a part of the fandom, and, feeling a sense of belonging and connection and being in on the jokes and memes and things like that, which maybe is a fair comparison, maybe not. But one thing, Kristin, I'm curious if you can speak to the difference, because I think sometimes with a gaming community, it is it. It might be that the community is started by the fans, kind of maybe grassroots, I don't know. And then sometimes, the game publisher might intentionally want to create a community. So I'm really curious about your thoughts on the difference between the two. Can they merge? Yeah, anything about that?
Yeah. So you always want it to be the fandom, is the short
Mm,
answer of that. You ideally, the idea behind pre-launches and launches of a game in general is to always ensure that you have a community behind you, because the community is always going to support that game. They're going to be your biggest bug tellers, your biggest game
mm,
breakers, your biggest supporters and cheerleaders, and even feedback. What would make this game better? Things that you may never have thought were on your radar, you have some of the most interested people in what you're building. And a lot of times that does start as a fandom, and you want it to start as a fandom. Otherwise, it's a little bit harder to, you can't fake interest. So they really have to be interested in your game. They want to play it, they want to be a part of it. And that's the same with podcasts. It's the same with social media. It's the idea behind social media, behind all of this stuff. Everything is to build community. The answer for all TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, if you look at Facebook, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of groups with hundreds of thousands of people, because there's that one subject that everybody's interested in. And it could be really dirty shoe subject. Like, there's literally a community for everything.
Yeah,
And that's
True.
just like, yeah, so it's the same idea. You want to build relationships around that interest, and ideally you want those relationships to be positive and to push out whatever it is, your TV show, your podcast, your social media page. But with that comes the interaction. You cannot just expect that you're going to drop something, and this is a lot of what other people run into, is you cannot just drop something in the middle of the room and people flock to it and then you ignore it. That's the worst thing you could do. They want to know that you care, that you're listening, that you're present, that you're putting as much energy into them as they're putting into you. Otherwise, they're going to go and have gone. And we've seen that.
So
So I
you're
hope
saying if it is initiated by, say, the game publisher or whatever, it's still possible to create a healthy, thriving community, but it's like it has to be about the fans, kind of has to, can't just be top down, right? It might start
100%.
there, but yeah, it really has to be centered around them. Okay.
100%.
Yeah,
And like as a game launch, as an example of that, is you're gonna put out, for the community, it's a giant circle. All of the social media around the Discord is what I always say. And the Discord is always the landing page. The game is really the landing page, but the Discord is the connection between the game. But all of that social media and stuff, you're gonna push out that game, or same thing with a podcast or a YouTube channel or whatever. You're gonna push it out, and it's gonna be center. And in center, you're gonna have all of these people on every single social media page. You need a landing page, and that landing page is gonna be your game. But Discord is right now is the one thing that becomes the landing page for everybody. So it's the easiest way to put, the link in, all the news, all the updates and development. But people really have to know that you're paying attention, because you start to see it. There's a few games now that are happening on Meta where the devs have started to ignore these games, and the people are the first to call it out and say, I'm done. If you're done, I'm done. And then they wash their hands of it. And it's very sad, because it kills the community in a really big way. And they don't understand that. They get too big for their britches, I guess, or they don't think it's as important, or it will self-run, and it doesn't. But that's where you have to hire a community manager or somebody that has that same interest, and to make sure it's continuing to go.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Parisa. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, great. Well, I have a question that kind of flows right along with that. Community care and marketing rarely share the same sentence, if ever. But you seem to bridge that beautifully, Kristin. You really do. So how can studios or XR creators design campaigns that feel human and promote well-being at the same time?
This was purely accidental, Rachel, and I know you know that. But I found a niche that I didn't even know I had when COVID shut the world down. And then I honed in on that, because I was given the opportunity to work on so many skills when I was picked up full time at another gaming company. And then when I was let go of that gaming company, it was a real big conversation about whether I wanted to go back into mental health or stay in the gaming field. And what I realized through a lot of soul searching is that this is something I am so unbelievably passionate about. Not because I'm giving up mental health, but because there's such a huge overlay of really being able to have that positive social impact and change the conversation in these games. Because you can put out as many games as you want, but if you don't have a thriving and healthy community, eventually in 5 years' time, that game is going to shut down. Those communities build it. So for me, it's still working with people. It's still the same type of drama, for lack of better words. It's the same adrenaline because game crashes happen, bugs happen,
Right.
people get upset, all sorts of human things are happening in this game. And I've become like the firefighter of it all to try to calm it down and empathize, but ensure that what is being done needs to be done. So it's really given me the opportunity to define who I am, which is the community social marketing part of this, but also define the needs of what they need, because they don't know. When you're
Right.
picked up offered as like a social, as a community manager, and
Right.
very times, and this is not a knock to community managers because I am also a community manager, but they think a Discord event without the interaction or whatever is going to satisfy that need, and that's just not true. But there's this weird line that is sort of still being defined even now as we speak. Like, what does it mean to really bridge communities from social media to Discord to in-game? Because all three of them are equally as important. And a lot of times, if you're working with a publishing company or even a gaming company, they don't know the answer to that. So you have to be the answer to that. And do it
Right.
in a way that builds trust so they know you know the answer, And honestly, pay you accordingly. That's also important. Don't ever do this stuff for free. It's a lot of work.
No, it is a lot
Oh,
of work. And
oh
hey.
my gosh. Sorry.
Just dance around a little bit. She's so excited. She's going to celebrate. And I've actually been in some events where we've had trolls, and instead of, kicking them out, I've actually seen you talk them down and enjoy the meditation or whatever we were doing at that particular instance. And it was so refreshing, and it just inspired me to continue on doing the same. It's kind of, when we have trolls, you were eager to get scared and kick them out. But I really love your resilience in that. And you like, hey, just, sit down, check it out if you like. We'd really appreciate you to being here. I've really seen her in action, and tell you do have to join one of her events. It's something to see. And I learn so much every time, if not about myself, but like how I can be better as a session leader or someone holding space for people in a gaming event. So thank you, and you're really awesome at it. So I'm glad you stayed
Thanks.
within the XR AR world.
Yeah, me too. I realized the thing about trolls is I believe they're made within that game, like they didn't get a
Mm,
need met, or they were met with like anger or nastiness or being kicked immediately. They don't have that sense of belonging, and it doesn't always work. Some people just come in to be disruptive and rotten, but other people just want that sense of a belonging, and if you give that to them, there's a good chance they'll stay and be really cool people.
And 100%. And I'm like you, I joined during COVID, and I just saw it as a game. And then it became such a big part of my community. And I talk to Laurel about it all the time. I'm like, I'm looking for the right community. And I'm so glad I found that space. And we keep intertwining. And then like Parisa and so many of people in the audience, including Laurel, we keep intertwining, and it's just so beautiful. And it's this huge, vast space. But ideally, it's really not, because we're so specific in our genres and kind of what we're doing. So I
Yeah,
love that.
but like, where else in the
No,
world can you get we had an event in VR chat where we had the girls from Africa with Paul, our
Mhm.
team of kids from New York and Estonia and oh my God, the UK,
Texas. Yeah.
Texas,
Wherever.
all over the
Nairobi.
place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like where else can you
So-
get that and be able to moderate a conversation where they're enjoying
Cross
each other's
those
company?
borders.
It's
Cross
just
those borders.
it
Yeah.
just doesn't happen anywhere else easily.
Yeah, that's true. Kristin, you brought up, you slipped in a little mention, and I just am curious, how has AI changed what you do, or has it?
Ugh. So
I
so okay, I have a love-hate relationship with AI. I really
know. We all
do
do.
love AI for so many reasons. It's very helpful to edit some of my stuff. It's very helpful to give me some ideas. It's helpful in that sense. There's a lot of stuff going on with AI that is just beautiful. And the hate part of that is I slowly saw my job being taken away. And I called it from a mile away, and I was assured over and over again it was not. And that was very early into AI. Now, like, yeah. So, like, my fear is that, I mean, you cannot train AI to build community, so I'm not even a little worried about that. However, you can train AI to do a lot of things, and we have. I've trained AI to moderate in the Discord server and to help do customer support. A lot of these devs are indie devs that just don't have the manpower to do customer support. So we have an AI bot in Discord to answer, very basic how-to questions or uh-oh buttons and stuff like that, but can also kind of like help further that we don't have as like an FAQ or whatever. So it's been beautiful. It has been an absolute lifesaver because for me to go into, the support channel and answer those questions is a nightmare. So it's great. However, the real
Yes, I was
human
waiting for
side of
that.
that. Yeah, like the real human
There's
I'm
a
like,
side of
big
that
but.
is
mm-hmm.
There's a
yeah,
big but
it
sitting
is
there.
going to take people's jobs, and it's already taking people's jobs. And anybody that doesn't see that is just ignorant. It's happening, and it's sad because part of it is the bottom line, and these companies are forced to do more with less, which forces you to do more with less. And I get it from their standpoint, but from as like a person who works for a company that would do something like that, just is yucky, and
Mhm.
it acted as a warning for me that this is absolutely happening and will continue to happen, unfortunately, because it's just cheaper and easier, but it's also not human. So it's also not the answer to everything, but it's helpful. I'm not going to lie about that. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's the truth. I think we're all feeling about that way. But and it's lovely that it can help with communities. It can't build a community, but it can help
Mm-mm.
maintain a community, and that's a real nice differentiation. I like that.
Yeah. It's just helpful to have it as a tool, and nothing more than a tool, not a
That's how I
human.
explain it to people as well, because a lot of people are so still afraid of AI, and I'm like, it's like a fancy Google, or it's like a tool that you train to do something. It's not an
Yeah.
actual human. It's not going to replace things that we actually value in the long run. It's
Mm,
like
I don't
I
actually
really
agree with
don't see
you.
it.
I think it
Oh.
will. I absolutely think it will.
Yeah, in some cases, but right now, I think that AI is a tool, but I think we as humans need to be the decider. We need to be the one
Yeah.
who's being conscious about the information we get for it. But yeah, it's a big, huge topic, but it's fascinating that's something that I would have a few years ago. I I don't know. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I would have not thought it would have touched our lives as big as it is, and it's everywhere.
In a
It's
big
really
way.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In every aspect, especially in gaming. And for better and for worse, it does let people build faster, develop faster, moderate easier, and support easier, tech, troubleshoot easier, but also like you know, all of those people could have jobs as well. So it's you know I'm very torn. Bye, Rachel.
Yeah, she'll be back. That's
She'll be back.
why I'm here. She'll be back. Yeah. And so tell us more about, because we have just a few minutes left. I would really love to know, what does the future look like for you? Because gaming is changing, the technology is changing, VR is changing, societies are changing, community, everything we're doing, not just AI, but in general. What's the future look like for you?
Honestly, I think it's like this is probably the first time in a few years where I'm actually very, very hopeful. I know a lot of people are, VR is dead or dying. It is not. It's absolutely not. There are a lot of communities that are bringing and porting their games into virtual reality. And when I tell you, thousands of the gaming community in general is a multi-billion-dollar company. There is no way
Mhm.
VR is going to die. It's just not happening. It may not be, COVID, I
It's
think,
evolving.
pushed it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
evolving. But I still think like the amount of games that we're pushing out
Mhm.
is it's not ending. It's not ending, and nor are the
Mm-mm.
players. The players are still here downloading, forming these communities and being a part of it. So as long as we continue to get games to push out, I don't foresee it going anywhere. I think the wave and what they're seeing now, because there's a huge push for community management and stuff like that, because these smaller dev teams are trying to push their stuff out, and it's maybe a team of like 3, and they just can't pay attention to social media or community management or any of that stuff.
Mhm.
They just want
That's
to build
true.
the game and focus on it.
Yeah.
So much time and energy and effort go into making sure that the game thrives after it's ported. And I don't foresee that going anywhere, honestly. For the first time in years, I really don't foresee that going anywhere anytime soon.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. But what about you? What's next? I
I don't
mean,
know.
seriously.
I'm pretty content where I am. I think as, you know, I would, I think, what am I working on? 4 different games right now. And I have managed to define myself in a way that makes sense, that I'm not overexerting myself and not making sure I'm still doing a really good job for these teams that are asking me to come aboard. But right now I was picked up by a marketing company, which I'm working for full time, and my job is exactly that, the social media part of it and the community part of it, because it's all, a circle. And I'm just going to continue down this path until I can no longer continue down this path, and then see what happens. But my skills will be transferable. It will no longer be, I worked at one game after I left, because my resume was all over the place, Aurel. When I put my resume, it
Yeah.
was all counseling, teaching, mental health stuff, and then
Mhm.
like this game for 4 years. Like, it just made no sense. So that stuff will take a backseat on my resume. And really, I think the thing that makes me good at what I do is I really, really love working with people. As ridiculous as that sounds, or ironic as it sounds, like, I've always loved working with people. And it's always just been my niche. And I found that here. So as long as
Yeah,
I can
that's
stay here, I
wonderful.
plan on staying here.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back,
So
Rachel.
just thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, you guys, thanks for bearing with me here. It's technical VR stuff. So for our audience of XR educators, clinicians, and creators, what's one takeaway they can bring into their virtual spaces to foster inclusion and emotional safety right now?
That's such a hard question.
I got them all,
Like,
girl.
I know, like, I think our biggest hurdle, just because I did it for so long in the event spaces in these other apps, is is the eyes are not there. So if you get out and get on these podcasts or on social media channels, which is a lot easier said than done, and push out that content that it's interesting enough that makes people be like, what the heck is that? I didn't even know that existed. Making sure it's accessible, making sure everybody feels welcome. Even the onboarding part of it is difficult. Like when I put these kids, I had we had 10 kids in VR chat for the XR Africa and thing with this, with the space thing. And half of them knew VR and half of them kind of like has been in it but never really have ever been in VR chat. So onboarding them, and you don't realize how hard it is until you have to teach how to onboard, 6 kids that have never used this system before, but are also very technologically savvy. So there's a lot of hurdles into coming in here and into like producing the content that we put out. Not even just we, everybody that does content in VR. I have been to some absolutely fascinating classes, some amazing events, and some really, really cool things in VR. And it always kills me to see that there's like 10 people, like, so like, I believe that more eyes need to be on that. And like, I think social media is just the answer to that, like, the eyes have to go on and it just has to constantly be pushed out so people get interested enough to download it. And accessibility, if not everybody has a headset, but in Engage, you can come in on a computer, and that's a lot more accessible than a headset right now, and a lot easier to navigate. And then eventually they'll go into a headset, or maybe not, but they're still able to come into the classroom, or the event space.
No,
So
I really find working, because I've been working with children as well, and the headset is such a large cost, but they already have like their laptops and their tablets, and a lot of games and apps are able to be played on their phones now. So I really see that coming full circle to where they're like, okay, well, if we can't get them in a headset right away because of the price, then let's start. Oh, you okay?
But yeah, sorry. My biggest fear with that is there's been a huge push to mobile for VR. And
Yeah.
that's great as like a supportive part of that. I mean, even Horizon has pushed to mobile. But then what's the point of coming in the headset? Like, part of being in VR is really, really experiencing everything around you. I feel like I'm next to you and I see Parisa clapping, and I have known George for 5 years just by coming to events and seeing him around. Like, and Nolan, like, I kind of know every single person in this room right now and like know things about them. I don't think you get that same connection when you're seeing an avatar in a phone. And I'm not knocking it, but I just would use caution because I see a lot of apps push to mobile now, and I get it, but like, they also scale too large too quickly, and all of these other things that I'm not going to get into because I am not an expert. I just see things. And
I agree fully. And once you put them in a headset, I don't like going back into the mobile. I don't like coming onto my computer unless I'm having to do something a little bit more intensive where I need to
yeah,
use a lot of screens and etc. But when I'm physically put these headset on these children and it becomes such this immersive community and experience, they're like, Miss Rachel, I don't want to go back to my app. I don't want to go back to the mobile device.
which is
But when you
beautiful.
have right, and I have a group of 20 kids, but they only have 5 headsets, and so like they're like, only 5 of us can play, and I'm like, no. But so we kind of turned it into where they have to earn the right. They got to
Right.
play respectful. They have to be role models within that community, and then I train them in a way to where the people who get to use the headsets the most are the ones who train the other ones to get into the headsets. So it's
Yeah.
creating leadership, value, a little bit of a hierarchy in a sense, but these are little kids, from like 10 to 18. And it's so beautiful to watch them like grow up in a sense. And then to be leaders already at like 12 years old, they feel so proud and so
Oh
seen and so
yeah.
recognized, right?
Some of my biggest leaders are 14 years old right now, and
Isn't
they're
that the
amazing.
craziest thing?
They're
Yeah.
amazing. They're reliable. They look forward to it. They're eager. It's beautiful. It's
Hmm.
absolutely it's great. But
Right.
yeah, I totally get it. I totally. It's a mixed bag of, you know, how do you make sure you're accessible in a way for everybody, but also making sure that you're showcasing the thing we want to showcase, which is VR. But for events, you want to be accessible in every way, and that's the computer, mobile. It's such a convoluted question. Like, there's no really good answer.
No. I completely agree. But again, it's just getting those headsets on their faces. And then once they're in there, because I've had adults even who are like, oh, I'm never going to do that. And then I put them into something and they're like, oh my God, we're going to go meditate on the moon. I'm like, yes, we are. And it looks like you're physically on the moon. And it just blows them away because they just think
Yeah.
it's all just a game and there's not real friends with inside of VR. And I'm like, no, there's real community. Like you said,
Well,
there's so many people here. I know their birthdays. I know their children. I've seen
yeah,
them in person. Like I've been
which
to
begs
Laurel's
the
house.
question. Yeah, well, so that begs the question. Yeah, Rachel's been to my house. So do you get to meet any of your community in person? Do you have in-person meetups?
Oh, it's a good question. I would say yes and no. So for the games that I'm working with, no. Not for any other reason other than just I haven't been doing it. I maybe just not long enough to really like form those bonds. But
Mm-hmm.
from prior, absolutely. I've actually met Parisa and Mondo, and Jeremy. I've met so many people, and it's so like it just feels like it just there's no difference to me. Like I feel like once you meet somebody, there's no like awkward weirdness. Like you just kind of know them, and it's just like a natural, just um transition into real life. I've met other people outside of that community, and it has been just great. Some of my best friends, honestly, are from VR, and I don't even know what I would do
Mm-hmm.
without them at this
Same
point.
here.
Like I love them.
100%. I agree fully. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just been so beautiful as coming in, like both of us came in during COVID. You have all these ideas and notions are like, oh, it's just a game, it's whatever. And it really didn't take long for it to progress from like, okay, these are just a whole bunch of strangers in the computer game to these people I care about. And I talk to
Yeah,
them through Discord or through other social media outlets or like, I get to meet them in person and it's so beautiful. And I really
yeah.
think it's forward thinking. So it's exciting because I think you, myself, and Laurel, and so many others were leading this path, but we're doing it with empathy and we're doing it with confidence. One of the things that you like to say is competence comes confidence.
Yeah.
How does developing that skill, whether in a game or in life, translate to emotional resilience and trust the inside of a community?
Well, so it's a whole different conversation when I talk about stuff like that because part of what I do,
Mm,
and this is completely separate. There's a lot of different like separate things that I do. But
right.
part of that is bringing younger kids in here to experience and thrive and learn and master all different skills. And whether that's world building, whether it's world hopping, whether it's event hosting, learning a different language, or whatever it is, there's so many learning opportunities within these spaces, even just exploring games, meditations, stuff like that. There's always that fear of just not being able to do something. And
Right.
the idea with why I always say that is because I think as adults, as parents, we we don't want our kids or our students to fail. We don't. So when they start failing or they start getting frustrated, they give up, or we step in and we want to fix that for them. And I don't think we should. Like, I think we need to let them fail. We need to make sure that they have the tools to go further, and the resilience to go further. And we could do that. We can absolutely encourage everybody to celebrate the small wins, the big wins, the even just getting up after a failure or reiterating, your next failure, and shift that into like just a part of the process. You can't build without failing. So it's just another way, not like you don't like just another way how not to do it. So you're still learning and teaching them
Right.
how to reframe that, teaching them to reframe that, teaching them to deal with those very big emotions, because I don't know about
Oh
you, but
yeah.
if I'm playing an actual game or building a space, the amount of frustration that I feel is very
Mhm.
real. And it's very hard to, you know, like it's so much easier to quit. And if they don't, that's beautiful. So when we give them those tools, when we give them that confidence, and we give the community around them that confidence to build each other up, to empathize, to sympathize with their failure, or help them troubleshoot it, these kids really start getting that de-escalation skill, the confidence that they need. The skill building becomes like emotional scaffolding, like they have
Mhm.
all these pieces that now tell them they can handle this, they can do it, that they just need another reiteration and another and that is all resilience. It's all of that leads to resilience. So when we let them feel confident in what they're doing and they actually do the thing, they build it because they failed so many times, then they become competent because they know that all these other iterations that led to their failure have led to their success. And God, what an amazing feeling that is. What an amazing feeling it is to be able to celebrate that with a child that got the tools from the entire community.
It's
So,
amazing.
stood up again.
No, I think that's super amazing,
No, it's fine.
Kristen. And I wanted to thank you so much for coming on today. I really love this subject and how you've been moving through XR. And definitely, I'm going to keep my eye on you. And I hope that we keep intertwining. So thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to
Thanks for
thank
having me.
everyone. Oh, heck yeah. I also want to thank everyone here again, our audience. You are the reason we are here. We love showcasing you on the show. And thank you to Educators in VR for producing and encouraging medical and health innovations in XR AI. Grateful always. I invite you to stay after the show to connect with each other or with me and Kristen and Laurel. It has been a privilege today. Again, my name is Rachel D. And I'm a health and well-being educator and coach. And every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, join me for Recharge with Rachel D in VR chat, where we breathe, move, and meditate. I hope to see you back on the first Wednesday of December, when I will be talking with another dear friend and co-EDVR partner in crime, Dr. Jose Costa Ferreira, about how extended reality is reshaping healthcare and professional education through immersive, evidence-based interventions. A huge thank you to the amazing XR News crew. We couldn't do it without you. And we can't do this alone. We're always looking for new team members to help to show the life. Moderators, speakers, trainers, news reporters, script writers, slide makers, live streamers, and filmers. Training is provided, and all at the very least, you can support us by becoming a member of the Educators in VR. Come join us and be a part of all this fun. Each of our shows are filmed and then later put on YouTube, and we'll soon be adding live streaming to our Educators in VR YouTube channel, Twitch, Discord, and more. So to stay up to date, join us in Educators VR Discord and all of our social channels. You'll find all the news, the updates, and links at educatorsvr.com. I also want to give a Thanks and to incredible partnership sponsors and supporters who make this show possible, including LRN, the Reinhardt Foundation, Girls STEAM Institute, Virtual World Society, the Cadets Metaverse, Vertex Form 3D, Bridge Makers, and of course, Engage XR. A final shout out again to everyone who helps gather the news and stories from across the metaverse and the industry. Your work is what makes it possible for us to be here. Until next time, I'm Rachel Darden, and this has been the XR News Medical and Health Edition, and I'll see you in the metaverse soon. Thank you, everybody.